Thank you, Andrew. Before I begin, I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here tonight, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. Before I begin telling you a bit about myself, I would just like to say how lovely it is to see some familiar faces in the room, and how truly inspiring it is. I think I just mucked that up too. How truly inspiring it is to see so many young new faces joining our growing family of AIEF. I'm so humbled to be able to speak to you tonight as an ex-student who has had the opportunity to benefit from an AIEF scholarship. My name is Libby Cook-Black. I am a Torres Strait Island woman. I was born on Thursday Island. I grew up most of my life in the regional areas of Queensland and far north Queensland. But my family stemmed from Darnley Island, which is an eastern island of the Torres Straits. My journey with AIEF began about 8 years ago when I was the ripe old age of 15. What I didn't realise then was that what AIEF was offering me was more than an opportunity to take on quality education. So I would like to take you on a bit of a journey. Before I can remember, I always knew that I would go to university. I didn't know what I wanted to study, but I knew that this was an expectation set by my parents. And so this was important for me and always has been since a primary school girl. So before AIEF came into my life, I knew that I wanted a quality of life that was better than what I read statistics in the newspaper or I was taught in social studies. Balancing this, of course, with being a professional athlete because this was my personal expectation. So what AIEF presented me with was an opportunity to move to a large city where I could chase both of these dreams. My family's dream for me to go on to tertiary education and my dream to be the netball version of Serena Williams. So as a scared 15-year-old, I boarded a plane with my mother to Sydney, where I had an interview at Pymble Ladies College. I had never been to Sydney before, so this was a complete new learning experience for me in itself. I learnt that socks were not just something that you put on your feet to put into shoes. I learnt that they could also keep your toes warm at night. So being successful at the interview stage, I went home, I finished out my year, and in 2010, I packed my bags, ready for my first taste of boarding school. At 15, I was grateful for this opportunity to attend such a beautiful school. On completing my first year and my first experience of boarding school, there were many ups and downs. And I quickly learnt through AIEF mentoring programs, through networking events, and through my boarding school that there were many opportunities for me post-school that I hadn't thought about yet. So coming into my second year of boarding school, which was also my final year of high school, I found that I was certain with where I wanted to be in my life. I had made the decision that I wasn't going to return home to far north Queensland or to the islands. I wanted to attend a university in Sydney, and I wanted to play netball for the Sydney Swifts. And at 17, I was one young, determined woman. And it wasn't until I went to a National Rotary Conference in Canberra at 17 in Year 12, and I was fortunate enough to be a guest speaker, that I worked out what I wanted to do with my life. After I'd spoken and I sat back down to my seat just in time for dessert, and it was really good, Mr. Dodson was sitting next to me, and he turned to me and he asked me what I wanted to do with my life. And I just said to him, I want to go to uni and I want to play netball. And he said to me, but what do you want to study? And I sort of said to him that I wasn't quite sure. Being in Year 12, I think this concerned my mother, I'll just let you know. But he turned to me and he said, maybe you should think about going into law. He opened my eyes up in that conversation to possibilities for affecting change. And this thrilled me because he was an Indigenous educated man telling me that I had the potential to be something more than what I was expecting of myself. That night, he raised my expectation. So I went off and I researched and I thought, that's it, I'm going to go to criminal law, I know what I want to do. In my first year, in my first semester, I realised that many of the cases that I was reading were just too close to home for me. And I wanted to affect positive change. I didn't want to be a reactor anymore. So halfway through my first year of university, I began to really struggle with some personal childhood memories. And that brought me to pack up my things and move home to mummy. So after 3 months of being back in Queensland, I was still training and I was still trying to crack the Queensland Netball League. I sustained my first long-term injury and I tore my ACL in my right knee. This really put things into perspective for me because I realised the importance of having a degree, although I still had a dream to be Serena Williams. So I took some time out, and with the help of the AIEF alumni team, I moved back to far north Queensland and I decided to continue my studies up at home. On completing rehab with my brand new knee, I was recruited into rugby union for the Olympics, which I immediately fell in love with. So my dream of being a professional athlete was still alive, but now I wanted to be Wendell Saylor. From here though, with the help of AIEF, I moved again, this time to Brisbane, with an opportunity to play for the Australian Jillaroos, which is the Australian Women's Rugby League team. Once I transferred my studies with the help of AIEF team, I decided that I needed to move to a university that could cater for my crazy lifestyle. So they helped me enrol at QUT in Brisbane, and this meant that I could study both internally or externally. So it didn't matter if I was in New South Wales or I was in Queensland or I was overseas somewhere, I could continue to do my studies, which was really important for me. So this is how I've been studying for the last 2 years. I have been studying externally while travelling domestically and internationally with the Australian Rugby League team and with International Invitational Rugby Sevens. And this is currently where I am. I'm 6 months post another knee reconstruction, this time on my left knee. I recently moved to Sydney on a semi-professional contract with the Cronulla Sharks. This being semi-professional, I found that I needed work, and Sydney being an expensive city to move to, I needed it urgently. So this is where my life, I found, did a full circle. I am now working in Martin Boarding House at Pymble Ladies College. So here I am at the age of 23, still studying in the same common rooms and the same library where I did my HSC. And now I am passionate about venturing into sports law with a view to changing the way Indigenous culture is used in the sporting realm. I want to push for more women in the sporting teams to be held and valued at a professional level, and looking to use the sporting vessel as a way into education. So specifically, mostly with Indigenous young men and women. So not only did AIEF offer me a quality 2 years to finish school, but they continued to support me post-secondary school and set me up with a network of people who became family. So not only am I an AIEF alumni, but I am forever a link in the Pymble chain, and I will continue to finish my law degree whilst chasing the dream to be the female Wendell Saylor. Thank you very much.